Welcome to the Seahawks 360 podcast, a Sports Ethos production, where we look at the Seahawks from every angle every week. I'm your host, Candace Higgins.
And I'm Tino Ganasius.
And we are here. We are back to discuss one of the most exciting things of the offseason, and that is the NFL schedule. We already know who the Seahawks are going to be playing in advance and if they're going to be a home or away game. But it really does matter a lot how they put the schedule together and how those pieces fit together. So I guess what we'll do is just kind of go by week, and kind of give our thoughts and maybe throw in some overarching opinions as we go along if we have those. But I just say we just dive right into it. What do you say, Tina?
That works for me.
All right, let's do it. So week one, we are starting off at home against the Denver Broncos. I found it funny that we're doing this matchup again after how much hype there was behind the last time. Obviously, there's not nearly as much hype. Russell Wilson is long gone from the Broncos. Well, not long gone, but he is gone from the Broncos. And we'll be facing a new, presumably, rookie quarterback Bo Nix in his first ever NFL game. I feel like it's in terms of first games go, I thought that the schedule guides were in Mike McDonald's favor in terms of giving him sort of a soft landing spot. No game is easy in the NFL, quote unquote, but I do think that you can have winnable games and favorable games. And I definitely think that the Seahawks will be probably heavily favored in this one. What do you think?
This is a dub. I'll say it right now. This is an easy one. So Bo Nix, Jared Stidham, Zach Wilson. You give me, I'll take any of those three, right? Yep. Raucous crowd, first game of Coach McDonald's, tenure with the Seahawks.
Yep.
Crowd's going to be going nuts. Weather should be nice. It's still early September.
Yep.
And any three of those quarterbacks I would love to face, right? We know Denver has some talent on defense, most notably Patrick Surtain. Mm-hmm. But the reality is this team is rebuilding, and a rookie quarterback against what we think is going to be a very good Seahawks defense should prove to be a really fun game for Seahawks fans. And one point I want to bring up right away is this is from my experience, and I've heard other people say this. Crowds get more engaged with great defensive play than they do with offense, right? So like a sack, and you see the crowd goes bananas, or a pick and everybody goes crazy, or, stuff of the run behind the line. Defense is what gets the crowd going. And so my first question is, after week one, will the Seahawks have a greater home field advantage under Mike McDonald than we've had for the previous however many years, because we anticipate the defense being a lot better, right? I think we will see a different, I don't even know what it's called now, Lumen Field, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, Lumen Field.
I think we'll see a different home field advantage for the Seahawks because this team is going to be so predicated on playing great defense, right, and creating turnovers. So week one, give me some Bo Nix. I'm anti-Oregon. I'm a hater on Oregon, first of all. But I think you put a rookie quarterback in against what I think is going to be a hungry, tough defense. And to me, that's 24-3. That's something like some kind of score right in that range for me. Yeah, that's a W. That's for sure a W in my opinion.
I agree. I haven't done score predictions yet. I probably think on that a little bit more and see. I kind of like to see maybe we'll see when we get closer to it.
No, I'm not. I don't have any more of those. I just thought that was off the top of my head.
Okay. But they lost some significant pieces on defense as well. Like not just a rookie quarterback. They lost Justin Simmons, who was not just a safety for them. He was the captain and the voice of that locker room. I mean, offense, defense, otherwise, he was their team leader.
Yep.
That leads for a lot more chaos now. They've let go some other defensive pieces. They had a bad defense even with some of those pieces last year. And so I don't think you could get a more favorable matchup in theory. And then comes along week two. Week two, it is a road game. I will not downplay that. Road games are challenging, but you got a road game against the New England Patriots, who were a lottery team. I mean, that's not a lottery team, but they,
come on, basketball.
I know. I definitely have basketball in the brain, man. But that's a 10 a.m. game. Let me give that caveat. we don't know what the Mike McDonald era will look like with 10 a.m. games. I sort of brushed that off as an aside because Pete
Mhm.
was so great at getting
Mhm.
teams, he became great at getting teams ready for those 10 a.m. games. Maybe
Mhm.
that's a factor there. But if Mike McDonald can translate any of that, I don't know, magic gold that Pete Carroll seemed to be able to make happen with those 10 a.m. games, then
Mhm.
I think that this is a W as well against the New England Patriots. I don't think that you'll see Drake May in week two. They
Mhm.
have Jacoby Brissett. I think they'll have him, but I'm not going to pretend like Jacoby Brissett scares me.
Right.
And I actually thought about this when we were talking about week one. There's normally in the back of my mind a caveat, right? When we face these backup quarterback levels, like
Mhm.
there's always a will they be able to pick us apart because of the type of defense that we play, which is normally
Right.
stay back, super conservative, let you just chuck, dink and dunk down the field, which teams nowadays
Mhm.
will just do. Mike McDonald's not going to do that. I have
Mhm.
no concern. Even if this
Mhm.
defense, I don't expect the defense to necessarily come right out of the gate. I think it'll take some time to meld and to become what it could be,
Mhm.
but they won't do that. And as long as you don't do that and let teams dink and dunk at will, then this should be a W as well, in my opinion.
Mhm. I agree. I have it down as a W as of right now. I think that Gerard Mayo, I think, is going to be a very good coach. And I like Gerard Mayo a lot. But similar to the Seahawks, you don't know what to expect, right? You got a new coach coming in. Um, I still say if you're comparing Mayo to Belichick, right? You're comparing him to probably the best NFL coach of all time. So
Right.
there's going to be some growing pains with Gerard Mayo. You look at their offense, Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas, and Jalen Polk are their starting receivers right now, basically, right? You've got Ramondre Stevenson is a good running back, but not a great one. And Jacoby Brissett. To me, you look at that, you look at their line, it's this, they're gonna try to run the ball, they're gonna try to control the clock. There's a lot of names on defense,
Hmm.
but to me, this is a low scoring game. I
Yeah.
think ultimately the Seahawks just have better talent on offense, and that's what wins the game for them. But you never know with those 10 a.m. starts. You really never know we don't know what the formula is for Mike McDonald, right? And whether he will quite get what to do with those East Coast games. So we'll see. I have it down as a win for now. But it's that going to the East Coast and playing against a team with a good defense like the Patriots, it should be an interesting game. I think it's going to be one of those defensive slugfests where it's 13-10 sort of thing.
Maybe not 13-10, but I do think that it will start slow. My guess
Mm-hmm.
is, especially because it's Mike McDonald's first 10 a.m. game of all,
Mm-hmm.
and even if he figures it out, that first 10 a.m. game can be tough. I think they start slow, but I agree with you. Just enough offensive talent to make it work. And I
Mm-hmm.
think because Mike McDonald's whole thing and what I sense will be Ryan Rupp's thing is adjustments. And so my guess is at halftime, they make the necessary adjustments and the
Sure.
Patriots aren't really willing to punch back. That's kind of how I envision that going.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, week three, back at
Yep.
home. Love the balance between home and away so far, by the way, against the Miami Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a tough one. They got so much speed on that team. Um, I'm very curious as to see how they match up, defensively. I think that I'm less afraid of this game than I would be if this was Pete Carroll, but I still, I am still concerned about just the level of sheer talent. And that team, I heard someone say, I'll credit Seahawks Brendan Nelson. I heard him say that they're like the Miami Dolphins are the September champions because they're like the greatest team of all time in September. Like
Right.
they
That's
never
funny.
lose anything and they're just whooping everybody. So it's not a great time to
Mhm.
get the Dolphins. If you had any sort of inclement weather, I think you probably feel better about that game. But
Mhm.
I've got it as a L. I've got it as them taking their first L of the season. But I can see a world with which this is a great battle. They go back and forth, and ultimately Seahawks went out, and they do have home advantage.
Mhm. So I also have it as a loss. Because I just think that offense is so
Yeah.
explosive. This game to me comes down to, so it's two things that have to go right for the Seahawks in order to win this game. A, They have to be able to score enough points to compete with that Miami offense, meaning
Right.
in my mind, that means DK has a big game, right? It's going to be DK against Jalen Ramsey. That's always a show. And or they're going to have to be able to run the ball and keep the ball away from the Dolphins, which I expect them to do some of. But realistically, can the Seahawks corners hold up against all that speed? Can the safety play be deep enough and play over the top enough to prevent big plays, right? And exactly. And so that's what worries me is this offense is so outstanding. And again, week 3, there aren't going to be a ton of injuries. These speedsters are going to be fresh. Right. And so what I'm looking for, maybe even bigger than the win or loss, is what is Coach McDonald's approach going to be in this game, right? Is he gonna play press man and just say, you know what, we're gonna challenge Spoon, we're gonna challenge Reek, and we're gonna go out there and we're gonna see what we can do against the best offense in the game, basically? Or is he going to play more conservative? That's what I'm looking for. But I have it as a loss as of now. I would not be shocked if the travel from Miami to Seattle creates enough of an advantage for the Seahawks, plus controlling the ball on the ground, plus, a big touchdown to one of the wide receivers, probably DK, is enough for the Mariners. I got Mariners on the brain now. Enough for the Seahawks to win this game. I have it as a loss, but there's a part of me that thinks that they have a chance in this game for sure.
One other point that I think will allow us to see how well the potential of Mike McDonald's plan can shine is, I don't think that with the way that Mike McDonald plans to run this defense, I don't think you necessarily have to say, let's let our corners get after it and press up man to man. Right. Because he said something really interesting, and that was at the linebacker level, he wants both of the linebackers to be able to play both Will and Mike. We know that he wants the safeties to be able to play both free and strong. And then we know that he wants to move those defensive linemen in on the front. Can you create enough confusion from pre-snap to post-snap to roll? Because the whole Miami offense is based on leverage, choice routes, that kind of thing, I think.
Matchups, creating great matchups. Yep.
Can you confuse them enough where they're making great play calls against what you're showing pre-snap, but not accounting for the post-snap? Can they do enough of that to win the game? And if they can do that, Mike McDonald would have sold me. Even if they don't win the game,
right?
If you see enough confusion, if you see Miami not on all full cylinders, I will be impressed enough just by their ability to slow down that high-powered offense.
I agree. And I think that what is exciting about that idea is you have, if the Seahawks play, there's basically a 5-man front, right? You've got the 2 edges, you've got the 3 on the line, and there's a lot of interchangeable parts, right? We saw Draymond Jones play edge the second half of last season. If he's lined up into 5 tech and he and Nwosu or he and Mafe kind of switch, or, they've got stunts going, it's going to be fun to see. And that's how, that's what he did with Baltimore.
Yep.
That's cool. To me, that is exciting. And I agree with you. If we see some of that, if they can slow down or confuse Tagovailoa in this game because they're not going to need that stuff against Denver or the Patriots. Really, week 3 is going to be the first time we see what he's truly trying to do. The other thing is, I don't want to see it, but the fact of the matter is Tua is susceptible to a big hit, right? And if this team gets the kind of pressure that we think they have the potential to do, and Tua is under pressure, or he gets knocked out of the game or knocked out for a quarter, now they're in business. Mike White is their backup, right? Mike White is not accurate the way that Tua is. Right. So it's going to be that game. That's the first game where I'm going to be, really, truly excited to see what Coach McDonald and this team is about. That's going to be live.
And just a note in terms of the schedule as a whole, what I like about getting to week 3 is that we've seen plenty of schedules where you got sort of a cupcakes row, and you don't know who this team truly is until week 8. week 9. You don't have a true test until that point. They have the opportunity to face a true, real opponent, a really elite opponent, to see how they match up and adjust accordingly early enough in the season. It's not too early where you didn't have the opportunity to get confidence, but early enough where you can make the necessary adjustments if you fall flat.
Right. I did see too, this is crazy. So I saw, and this answers a question we had from the last 360. PFF said Trey Brown was the best corner and press man in the entire NFL.
I think I knew that, actually. I knew that. I remember mentioning that last season
that's wild. So when we talk about who's playing that outside corner when Spoon plays in the slot, there's the answer right there.
I told you that.
Yeah. I know you did, but we talked about him. We talked about Michael Jackson but when I saw that though, I was stunned. I was like, I didn't know he was, at least from a PFF standpoint, I didn't realize he was rated that highly.
Yeah,
to me, good. But that gives them a chance against a team like Miami, right?
It does.
And it's not that you want him playing like straight up man with zero safety help over the top, but if you can put enough pressure and he can hold up, I'm telling you, this defense is going to be top 5 this year.
I think but Trey Brown's biggest obstacle, I think, is just his size. There are some plays where I've seen him play it perfectly, and that's probably why PFF gives him such a high grade, because even when he gives up something, he's in the proper position. He just didn't have the length to contest that, whereas any other cornerback would. I like his positioning. I like the way he plays the position, and that's why I said I liked the cornerback room as it was, and I didn't feel like we needed all these extra dudes. But anywho, Trey Brown is on notice despite being the best press corner in the NFL. But that's why I love this. The cornerback room is going to be extremely interesting. But shout out Trey Brown. Okay, let's move on to week 4, which is a primetime matchup, the first primetime game of the season, Monday Night Football against the Detroit Lions, the annual, so it seems. Right. Detroit trip, that's so weird. It's like the Carolina Panthers were years ago, where it's just like, you would think they're in the division at this point because we play we played them so much. I don't understand really, but NFL loves that matchup, and I'm excited about that one. I think that's always a good matchup. Those two teams are always very entertaining. I think it will be very different. I've heard a lot of people say they think it'll be a shootout. I don't think it will be a shootout. I think you'll have offensive production, but I think that both of these teams have been very intentional about working on their defenses. So it wouldn't surprise me if this actually turned out to be the opposite of what everybody thinks, and that is a defensive matchup, a defensive game, and a low scoring game relative to how they've been playing. I think maybe 20s or something like that. I don't think it'll be like 17 to 13. I don't think it'll be that, but I do think it'll be just a normal game. I think both of these defenses have improved. We'll see how much. But ultimately, I gave the Seahawks a W because Geno absolutely eats in indoor stadiums. Watch what the man cooks. And provided that the defense does not absolutely let him down, which they have before. If the defense does not let him down, Geno will lead the way in indoor stadiums. He will put the team on his back, and the guy just balls out.
I have it as a loss, but
boo.
I know, but part of it is the travel, part of it is a revenge game.
Yeah.
And I think these teams, the thing is I think these teams are very evenly matched.
Yeah, they are.
I just feel like if you're evenly matched and you're the team traveling from the West Coast to the D, and you're going to have a crazy crowd because it's Monday night. It's just, that's enough of an advantage to say, if I'm being smart, Detroit's going to win. But I do think that there are a couple of places. So 2 things. One is this is the manhood game for the Seahawks. This game is going to challenge what I mean by that is this is going to challenge the linebackers, right? Because they're going to try to run the ball against the Seahawks. You look at that line: Taylor Decker, Graham Glasnow, Frank Ragnow, Kevin Zeitler, Penei Sewell. They're going to try to run the Seahawks over, right? That's their coach has that mentality. They also lost Josh Reynolds in free agency, one of their wide receivers, and they're expecting big things from Jameson Williams, the first round pick a couple of years ago out of Alabama.
I think
And
the fans of Detroit would say they're happy to see Josh go, but
I'm okay, but he caught a ton of first downs, right? And so you look at Jameson Williams, it's Jameson Williams, Khalif Raymond, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that's a lesser receiving core than it was last year. So what I'm getting at is because they had the same one, but Josh Reynolds was a third down receiver, right? If you look at their line and you look at the makeup of this team, they are going to challenge to see whether the Seahawks can hold up against the run. So in my mind, when I hear that, I think Jerome Baker, Tyrell Dotson, are they big enough, strong enough to hold up against this team, right? Are they going to have 12 tackles apiece, right? 15 tackles? Are they going to be able to do the Bobby Wagner thing? Because whether we love Bobby Wagner or not, he, in pass coverage, he was an incredible run stopper, and he was part of the reason why we won that game against Detroit last season, and He is no longer here. We have linebackers now, off-ball linebackers now, who are more balanced, who are going to be able to cover tight ends and backs at times, but they aren't the 255-pound Bobby Wagner. They're not Hall of Famers against the run. And so to me, this is going to challenge them. The other thing is, I think you're right about Geno, because the only true pass rusher on this team is Aiden Hutchinson. They don't have a pass rush. Marcus Davenport, sure, like he's all right, but there's a reason why he's not in New Orleans anymore. Jack Campbell, Alex Anzalone, those are their two of their linebackers. We don't know what Campbell is yet. He's a first round pick, whatever. He hasn't proven himself yet. They just don't have that elite pass rush outside of Hutchinson. They do have a very good secondary, and they have a lot of depth in their secondary. So this is the perfect Geno game. To me, if you give Geno time, he'll pick you apart. I don't care who your secondary is. He's going to find somebody who's open and he's accurate. So I don't know. I say it's a loss, like I said, because they're traveling, because they're away from home, because I don't know whether the Seahawks are going to hold up perfectly against the run. But this is another one. If they came out 4-0, if they won against Miami and they won in Detroit, I would not be surprised. But the realist in me says 2-2.
I'll say I agree with you. The travel. Mm-hmm. I think Geno plays better there than he plays at the Seahawks Stadium. I'm just gonna be honest. He really, I think weather really does make a difference with the guy. Mm-hmm. But I would probably agree with you if this was a 10 a.m. game, but because it's a nighttime game, I'm going to trust that our defense made more improvements than theirs. And I think that that's true in scheme alone. I think in talent, there's an argument that there's a downgrade, if you're like looking on paper. But I just think schematically is so much of an upgrade that's going to challenge Jared Goff to think. Mm-hmm. And while Jared Goff has grown a lot as a quarterback and has gained a lot of respect amongst the NFL for his quarterbacking abilities, we all know his strong suit. It's not that. It's not reading defenses. It's not all of that. You can confuse Jared Goff. You can frazzle Jared Goff. We all know that that's still true, even if there haven't been a ton of teams to make him do that, except for the Ravens when they played the Lions and made them look like absolute fools. So that gives me great hope, but I'll move on. Okay, week 5. Back at home, New York Giants. People are saying this could potentially be a Drew Lock revenge game, but I don't think so, man. I think Daniel Jones is playing.
We'll see. It's a funny thought. It's a funny thought. Drew Lock starting that game.
Drew versus Geno would be absolutely hilarious, but I don't think that we're going to get that. It's the Giants, man. I'm not going to overthink it. It's a W. It's sorry.
A blowout. To me, that's a blowout, right? Yeah. You got Daniel Jones or Drew Lock. It
doesn't matter.
It's as bad as Denver is, basically, right? And then Devin Singletary is the tailback now. Saquon Barkley is gone. You've got no threat out of the backfield, really.
Yeah.
You have the starting receivers are Wan'Dale Robinson in the slot, Darius Slayton, and Malik Neighbors. Now, Malik Neighbors is explosive and nasty, and I expect him to have an impact on that offense. But Darren Waller retires, right? Fumbles the bag with Kelsey Plum and retires. And it's, you've got this offense that's not good. And then defensively, they have Brian Burns now, which is great. Brian Burns can rush the passer.
Yep.
The only way I see this game going south for the Seahawks is if they can't block Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. That's the only way, right? Those guys could have 3 sacks apiece, and Geno throws 2 picks, and the Seahawks lose 17-14 because our tackles couldn't hold up, or Abe Lucas retires medically. Charles Cross is hurt, and now we got your boy, Stone Forsythe out there, and that kind of thing I could see happening. But realistically, I think this is a win, and I think it's a really easy win for the Seahawks, or should be.
Yeah, let's move on. Mm-hmm. All right, week 6.
4 days. So you go from October 6th against the Giants at home at 4:25, so a late game, or I guess it's 1:25.
1:25. Yep.
Yeah, late game, to Thursday night football against the Niners at home. 4-day turnaround. I don't believe.
Thankfully, they're both at home, but to your point, that is a tough turnaround.
It's rough.
And that's the first short week of the Mike Macdonald era. So that's to be noted as well. And as a tough opponent, that's a division rival. And it's basically the standard for where you're trying to get to as a team, or the hump you're trying to get over, rather, so to speak. Thursday night football, I think it's competitive, but I've got it down as a loss. I think it's a little too soon for them to I just think the short week hurts them greatly. I think they were already going to be in a tough spot anyway, but I just don't think there's been enough time. I think they dropped that one.
It's a win for me.
Really, despite the short week.
It is. So I think that they're going to be, I think this defense is going to, this is the first game where we see this defense show out in a way where we see the difference between Pete Carroll and Mike Macdonald. I think Mike Macdonald is already planning for the 49ers right now, right? And this is why he was hired, was basically to compete with this team and with the Rams. And so schematic, he's going to come with some scheme stuff. He's going to cut all the kind of confusion he likes to create at the line. He's going to be doing, everything's coming out the pocket, right? We're going to see the whole bag. We're going to see the whole bag from Mike Macdonald in this game. I also think that we've seen, if you can get some form of pressure on Brock Purdy, he's not great, right? We know he's a game manager. And I think Purdy's susceptible. I think that their line, while Trent Williams is a Hall of Famer, I don't know that the rest of the line is great. You can get some pressure on them. The big thing is going to be, can our tackles hold up against the pass rush, right? It's Nick Bosa destroys the Seahawks. And
I'm not worried about the tackles. I'm worried about the guards.
Well, yes, Javon Hargrave is an all-pro, right? Leonard Floyd was under the radar signing. That Leonard Floyd gets 10 sacks in his sleep, basically. But I think you challenge Drake Greenlaw after his injury. You see if he's back, those sorts of things. But I don't know. This is Mike Macdonald against Kyle Shanahan. That's what this is to me.
Right.
And it's really hard to be able to tell. But I think, again, same as the Detroit game, the team that's at home, the team that has the crowd is going to be, to me, and that's enough of an advantage for them to win. I think they split the series with the Niners this year. I think Macdonald comes at the Niners with all kinds of craziness, and the Niners counter and know what he's coming with in week 11, but we can get to that in a minute.
Yeah. I flipped it mostly because of the short week. I think that while I agree he has been preparing, I do think just from an organization perspective, I think from a getting your team back revved up perspective, I don't know that Mike Macdonald is quite the motivator that it will be needed to get these guys pumped. And maybe they're pumped on their own. I'm sure they're sick of losing to this team. So it will be interesting. It would be interesting to see that play out anyway. All right. So then on the road, 10 a.m. game against the Atlanta Falcons. That was interesting because the Falcons are not the Falcons of old. It's not your parents' Falcons, but that defense is still sorry. It's still gonna be bad. They didn't do. I mean, they've addressed it through the draft. I'm not sure that brings them dividends at this point in the season, especially. So I'm gonna go with a W, even though I don't expect it to be a railroad. Like I don't think that they'll just roll over. I think that Kirk Cousins, his leadership, they're going to be in the game. We always have weird games against Kirk Cousins anyway. I expect it to be competitive. And yes, they're at home, but I just think there's just a large gap between it. And besides, I'll be frank, I'm much higher on Mike McDonald as a coach than Raheem Morris as a coach. And I think maybe although Raheem Morris has experience, I just like McDonald's approach. I think his approach is innovative in a way that puts him almost at an advantage, even though he will to some extent be an experience disadvantage. So I'll take that and I'll roll with it.
I said it's a loss. I think that for me, it's the travel. It's the travel, and then I can't stand Kirk Cousins. I'm just gonna say it out. Like Michigan State, don't love what he stands for. Never loved him as a player. Like he's just not my dude. But he is a slightly above average NFL quarterback, right? And he's a distributor more than anything else. Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, who's got speed. They picked up Rondale Moore from the Cardinals, who we know is fast as heck, right? And quick. Kyle Pitts, who's been underutilized, very underutilized thus far in his career.
Right.
To me, this game comes down to the Seahawks' ability to tackle. So if they can't tackle, because it's gonna be short passes, screens, that kind of thing, trying to get these guys loose. If they can't tackle, it's going to be ugly for the Seahawks because they got so many weapons on that offense. Defensively, you're right. This defense is boo-boo. This defense is not good. And they need some help. But between the travel and potentially the letdown after the night, I know it's 10 days in between, but traveling's never easy. And I think there will be a letdown after the Niners game one way or another. Those games are so physical. And that rivalry is so intense that I don't know. I don't know. I guess I was more rational when I put this together than I typically am. But to me, this is an L. To me, this is an L.
I think those are all fair points. I think the main thing that's got me going is the extra days. I think that'll help them. And yeah, I think I don't think I have anything else to really add to what you said, but I just trust that I was going to say something in terms of the tackling. I think there are more likely to be a couple of coverage busts than poor tackling.
Sure.
One thing that you made clear to me, and I expect for it to be the case, is that Mike McDonald's defenses are sound, disciplined defenses.
Yeah.
Hey, you have drilled that in my head, and I'm quite disappointed
Absolutely.
with you if that's not the case. But because I expect there to be more communication issue, just because I think that's one of the toughest things, the synergy, right, with his defense is finding how that works. If they win, I think it's just because of that more so than them not being able to tackle. At least I pray that's the case, because again, I can't sit through another season with tackling issues. So,
hey, Jordan Brooks is is going to be facing us in week 3, so I think we're going to be okay.
Oh,
he's Dolphin now.
Yeah, that just made me sad. I was never high on Jordan Brooks, but the price with which he went made me upset about not having Jordan Brooks, to be honest with you.
If you can sign a Tyrell Dotson or a Jerome Baker to a 1-year deal, right? That just shows you how the NFL values off-ball linebackers, unless your name is Fred Warner or, one of the few that are incredible.
Yeah.
I got no problem with it.
Okay.
Week 8.
Yeah, we got to speed this along. All right, week 8. Buffalo Bills. At home, I gotta win.
Ooh,
I gotta win.
Okay.
All right. I'll say this.
Then.
I think that the Bulls. I think that the Buffalo Bills have taken a step back. Right? They've lost some weapons. I don't think they've really done anything to push along their window. I think their window is pretty much closed, to be honest. And I think Josh Allen isn't Josh Allen without the weapons. I think Josh Allen regresses if he doesn't have the support. As incredible a talent as he is, we saw how inconsistent he was before he got the team. People assume he's not going to regress because of what they've seen from him. But I think we already saw him regress last season. He wasn't as accurate. He had more issues along the season. He was more inconsistent. And those kind of inconsistencies against this team, as they're starting to build and work through some of those challenges that they're going to have in the beginning of the season, and they're home, that's a win. Not an easy one, but I think they take that.
I said it's a loss.
No.
Well, so here's the thing. I think Stephon Diggs wasn't utilized in the way that I think he could have been, for one. And I think Stephon Diggs is an addition by subtraction with this team, given the conflict that he had with the coach and with some of the players on this team. Curtis Samuel is a very good football player, right? It pains me to say Ohio State guy, but he's a very good football player. And they signed him. Here's the big one, though. Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman was picked at the top of the second round. Keon Coleman, I think, is going to be included in the conversations a couple years from now with Rome Odunze and Marvin Harrison Jr. He's that good. The only reason why he dropped to the second round is he ran like a 4.56, something like that. But he's a beast. He was a beast at Florida State. He wins jump balls. He wins 50-50 balls. And I think he takes over for Diggs. And I think immediately Keon Coleman is a very, very, very good wide receiver. So I don't see that drop off with the skill positions. Another year of Dalton Kincaid, right? Understanding his role now at tight end. They used a first round pick on him last year. The other thing is James Cook is probably the best back they've had in a long time, right? And we saw some of that explosiveness. So to me, the offense is golden. The offense is solid. It's the defense that I wonder if they're going to be able to hold up against the Seahawks. But we don't know what that Seahawks offense is going to look like enough yet to really I feel like, to make a prediction on that. I just think Josh Allen is really good, right? I think Josh Allen is I think he's really good. I don't love him, but I give him his props. To me, this is a loss. It's similar to the Falcons game, similar to the Lions game, similar to Dolphins game. I could go either way, but when I look at his weapons, I don't see the downgrade that some others do. I think honestly, it's either a break even or slightly above what he had last year because of the development of Kincaid, because I think Curtis Samuel is underrated, because I think Keon Coleman is a legit first round talent who slipped to the second round.
Yeah. But are they that good immediately?
Coleman, maybe not, but I think Cook and Kincaid will show out in this game. I think there's no one you can really, they're solid on offense, right? Across the board. And so everyone on the Seahawks defense has to be like assignment focused. Again, if they tackle well, if they don't get burnt deep, Seahawks should win this game. But the Bills are good, and I think they're going to be better than last year.
Yeah, give me Devin Witherspoon. I ain't worried about it.
I love it. I hope so. I hope so.
All right. LA Rams at home.
Yep.
This was a tough one for me, but I went with a W because I could see them losing this game. I really can. But I went with a W because I think I felt last year that the Seahawks had a better roster than the Rams. I just did. I felt like those games came down to simple coaching. The Seahawks should have won those games, at least one of those games for sure. But I feel like they should have won both of those games. And I mean, injuries played a big part in the first one. But because of that, and because I felt like that was purely the difference, and honestly, I feel like that's been the difference for years. Yep. I feel like the rosters have been very even. The rosters plus Aaron Donald. But even that was coaching because they didn't double team him nearly. I just don't understand why there was never a true plan for Aaron Donald. But anywho, because of that, I see a W, but I can easily, you can talk me into a loss, obviously, really quickly.
To me, this is I'm more confident in this win than most of the others so far for me. I think you hit the nail on the head. The difference between this year against the Rams versus other years is simply we have a coach now who isn't going to be so stubborn, right? That he's going to do stupid stuff. Yep. I was going to say another word, but stupid stuff, because he believes in it. Coach McDonald's going to, if it doesn't work, he's going to change it up. Right. But the Rams and the Niners are the two teams that he was hired to beat. Right. So he's going to come with a game plan. He's not going to give up the stupid stuff. He's not going to allow, if his linebackers are getting beat over the middle by Kyron Williams, by whomever, he's not going to allow it to continue. He's going to adjust. He's going to figure out a way to counter the moves of Sean McVay. And we haven't seen that from Pete Carroll as of yet. We didn't see it. He just didn't. He had no counter moves. So to me, if we have a coach, let's say Sean McVay is a 10 from a strategic standpoint. Let's say even if Coach McDonald is an 8, the Seahawks roster is so much more talented than the Rams that this at home, to me, this is a W, right? They're just a much better team. The other thing is Aaron Donald's not there no more. Right. Aaron Donald was the one player on this team that made you scared. Aaron Donald, there was no answer for him. He wrecked every game. They don't have him anymore. Yep. He's not there anymore. And so it's just a different, and I think that's going to show up in ways that in big ways when the Seahawks play against them. So to me, you take away Aaron Donald, Seahawks already had an advantage talent-wise, and you got a coach that we believe can compete with the brain of Sean McVay at home. To me, this is a win. Yep. All right. Week 10 bye. Can't express how much I love that. Really got screwed over with the bye weeks in recent years, especially last year. I think got screwed royally. So this makes up for it. I couldn't think of a better bye week in terms of placement. So week 10 bye week. Coming from that, then you play the 49ers again on the road. Mm-hmm. That's where I've got the W. I think you got a week to prepare. I think you've already seen them. I think you lost, you struggled, you make adjustments accordingly, and you learn. You got an extra week to do it. You come in, maybe you don't dominate. It's going to be a competitive game regardless, but you win. That's where I've got the sweep ending. You know where they play week 10? No, I don't actually. In Tampa Bay. Ooh. They have to go to Tampa Bay week 10. Seahawks have the bye. And then we play the Niners week 11. So to me, that's a huge advantage that they have to go east on the week that we have the bye. I still have it as a loss. I don't know. The home field is a big deal. And I think you guys getting swept again. No, wait, you had us winning that one. Okay. We had them winning. I had them winning. You had us winning before and losing this one. Okay. But I think it's closer. I think it's more competitive than we've seen it. Right. This isn't a blowout. I think it's much more competitive than we've seen it. And this is another one where I could go either way. It would not surprise me if Mike McDonald came up with some crazy game plan. Seahawks have the bye week. They have the rest. They come out and actually beat the Niners in this game. But for, again, some rational part of me, some rational sliver of me took over when we were putting this together. I like it. I must have taken your place because I'm feeling real optimistic. Right. Right now, got us on a 4-game win streak. I do. Yeah. I love it. All right, 12. Yes. Well, actually, I was just gonna say one more thing is we're talking a lot about the Mike McDonald adjustments. Mm-hmm. I think it's easy to undersell how big Ryan Grubb can be. And I think he's shown so much versatility and he's shown so much innovation and ability to make adjustments that I think that matters too, that we just have a bigger question mark about what that looks like in the NFL. So that's why it's not talked about as much. But I wouldn't put it past the offense to throw in some new monkey wrenches that you did not see in game 1. And I think the offense in particular could benefit a lot from that bye week coming off and playing the 49ers. So totally agree with that. That's a great point. Back-to-back division opponents. Following that game against the 49ers, and you got the Arizona Cardinals, who will be, I think, really interesting this year. It's hard for me to clearly say the Seahawks are better than the Cardinals. They've got some really interesting pieces. I think they had a really good draft. They still have AJ Collier on that team, so I'll always give the Seahawks a notch in that regard. And so they were crazy enough to still do that.
Maybe he'll be healthy enough for a revenge game. It
Right.
is the home game, but I did have this as a loss. I did. I think that coming off of the win for the 49ers, I think it's hard
Mhm.
to just back to back. I also think that this team can probably be in pretty good rhythm at this point, and I don't know that Mike McDonald, Ryan Grubb will know how to make the necessary adjustments just meeting this team for the first time in
Mhm.
rhythm like that. And Kyler Murray can get hot. We know he can get hot. We can get streaky. And I can very much see him at this point of the season having a really good connection with his wide receivers. I think ultimately, even though it's at home, it's a little bit too much. But division games are always weird. So
To me, this is a win. I think Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. is scary, right? And their
yeah,
line, there are big names on that line. I don't know how great they are
right.
yet, but there are big names. They're for like Paris Johnson Jr., first round pick, top 10. Will Hernandez, first round pick. Jonah Williams, first round pick, right? They have talent on that line.
Mm-hmm.
Here's why I think the Seahawks win. I think that the Seahawks running game is going to be leaned on in this game, especially after a physical game against the Niners. I think they're going to lean on ball control in this one and front seven. So you tell me how many of these names you think are good in their front seven, their base 4-3. Zaven Collins, right, who can rush the passer, but is not good against the run or great against the run. Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, BJ Ojolari, who came from the Giants, who flamed out with them, Mac Wilson, who flamed out with the Browns, Kazir White, and Dennis Gardeck are their starting front seven as of right now.
That is
So
brutal.
it's bad, and their secondary isn't that much better. Buda Baker, is an All Pro, but outside of that, it's Sean Murphy Bunting, who was with Tampa and didn't do much. It's just when I look at their defense, what I see is the Seahawks being able to do what they want on offense. And that's how they're going to win this game because the defense, I think, will be okay. It might be great, but the defense is going to be at minimum okay. But
Mm-hmm.
the offense is going to be able to do what they want, run the ball, pass the ball. I don't see the personnel on this Cardinals team to be able to stop the Seahawks.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great perspective. I say actually because of that, I'm probably leaning more passing the ball just because
Good.
force them to pressure you, and I don't think they can. So that's actually a good point.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree. You could go either way with that front seven and have a good strategy. So hopefully you're right. All right, then we go on the road, 10 a.m. game against the New York Jets,
Mm-hmm.
and provided health, I've got this as a loss. In my books, they've already been on a win streak. I think this is a scheduled loss anyway, just the time of year, the opponent. I think Aaron Rodgers is in a great rhythm by then. Whatever concerns you had about the injury, provided he's still healthy now, are gone. And
Mm-hmm.
he plays better near the end of these seasons than he does even sometimes in the beginning. So, and that defense was dominant when it had a terrible offense, let alone a good one.
And it's
Schedule
better.
well, in my opinion.
It's potentially better this year. Javon Kinlaw,
Right.
on Reddick, right? That's
They made some
like to
good moves.
me, again, it's travel. To me, it's a loss as well. You're
Yeah.
traveling East Coast, 10 a.m. game. Now, if Aaron Rodgers is hurt or out, which I don't think is out of the realm of possibilities, then it looks a little bit different.
Right.
But provided his health, I think this is an L for the Seahawks.
Yep. All right, I got a win against Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Come back home. Oh, that's right. They're on the road. It's a road trip, but I do think they bounce back from the Jets. I don't think they just take that L and just roll over. I think they bounce back against the Cardinals. Weird things happen in that stadium, but I don't think the Seahawks have had a problem winning in that stadium. It's really other things that tend to go wrong with the
Right.
Seahawks. So I got a W.
I got it as an L, mostly because they're going to go from New York, probably back to Seattle, and then travel to Arizona. So you got 2 travel days in there. Arizona is going to be comfortable. They're going to be at home. They're going to have seen the Seahawks 2 weeks ago. And so it's not going to be a shock to their system anymore. This is another one that could go either way.
Right.
I don't feel passionate about saying it's a loss, but to me, this is probably a loss. Just trying to be smart about it.
Yeah, we will have a split. It's just a matter of we switch them. Okay.
Right.
All right. Then we got a home game. Was it Sunday Night Football against
Yep.
Green Bay?
Yep.
Okay. I put an L, but I don't really think I believe it. I have so many W's
Come on
that
now.
I got so many W's that I do
Mm-hmm.
think the Packers will be good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're unbeatable. There are two games, right? Green Bay and Vikings. I feel they will drop one. I think they will drop. I think that they will be favored to win this game. And the Seahawks always have a weird loss, right? There's a loss that you expect to win,
Sure.
especially late in the season, that you'll lose anyway. And I think that's either going to be it would really, and it's forecasting ahead, but with the upcoming games, Green Bay, Vikings, Bears, I think they drop one. You could easily talk me into it being the Bears game. Honestly,
Okay.
I think there's a great argument for that. I've got, I've got this one because I do like Green Bay,
Mhm.
but yeah, I don't feel passionate about it. I'll be honest.
This to me, this is a win. I don't think that the helium that Jordan Love has had this offseason is legit. I think Jordan Love is okay. He's fine. He's not a top 10 quarterback, right? He's not a top
No,
12 quarterback, but that's how
no,
people are talking about him right now.
no, I don't think he is. I
And
think
you look at their
he's above average like Gino, but I think that makes him even.
right. And then, they do have a very stout, very good defense. They historically have had a very good offensive line, but the again, I get back to this defense is going to be great, in my opinion. Mike McDonald's going to have a very good defense. The crowd is going to be lathered up. It's Sunday night. It's national TV. It's 5:20 kickoff. Fans are going to be going nuts. Green Bay is traveling from Green Bay, Wisconsin to
Mhm.
Seattle, Washington for this game. And I think there's an advantage there. I think there's an advantage there. And if it's going to me, it's going to boil down to the line of scrimmage in this game because their offensive line is very good. And if they can run the ball with Josh Jacobs, start running play action, that sort of thing, Seahawks might be in trouble. But again, in my mind, this is a win because of some of the exterior factors, the time, national TV, the crowd. It's going to be in December. It's going to be cold. And I know the Packers are cool with that, but maybe it's a big rainy game, right? And it's crazy, which would be the advantage to the home team. So we'll see. To me, this is a win.
Not with Gino.
I got to win here. I got to win against the Vikings, and I got to win against the Bears. I think they take all three of those games and get on a roll.
I think they drop one. I do. I just sense it. There is always a disappointing loss. And I feel like it will come there.
Right.
Now, I am probably before we get to the end of the season, I'm probably gonna change it to being the Bears. Uh yeah, I got a W against the Vikings. I think that sticks. I think JJ
It's
McCartney
JJ
does
or
not.
Sam Darnold, right? And
Yeah, it
it's
doesn't
either
scare me. I
so
know they've got great offensive weapons. I just don't think the quarterback situation is good enough to mean anything to me, especially at home. So I think that's
the
a W
defense
no
is
matter
bad.
what. You said what?
The defense is bad in
Yeah.
Minnesota. The defense is
Well,
bad.
yeah, because they did lose Hunter.
They they blitz. I'll borrow the term from what's his name? Robert Mays. He said was it Robert Mays? One of those guys says it's a face melting blitz, meaning like or face melting blitz, meaning like you're just throwing like everything's on fire. You're just throwing everybody at it. That's what Brian Flores does in Minnesota because he can't generate pressure with four guys. So he just either sends everybody or sends nobody. And I think Gino's too smart against a defense like that to lose a game like that. The other thing is you can have weapons, but if Darnold and JJ can't get the ball to him, now
Right.
JJ is underrated. And I think JJ is going to be a lot better than people think, specifically Seahawks fans. He's really talented, but it's not going to be this year. To me, that's a W. Then go to Chicago, 4 days off, go to Chicago, Thursday night game, national television. Where do you think Caleb Williams is at this point? Do you think Caleb Williams is like a top 10, top 12 quarterback by that point in time? Because that's why you would give the Bears the win, right? Is that Caleb Williams has progressed.
No, it's got a lot to do with the weather and nothing else. The weather and the short turnaround. I just think that's a tough time to go to Chicago. It really is. I mean, you're looking at snow. I know Gino sucks in the cold, and I'm just it doesn't. I don't think Caleb Williams will be bad this
Mhm.
time of year. So I don't think it'll take much to outdo Gino. That's really more of an indictment of how I feel like he does in cold weather situations. I mean, the Kansas Chief game was. I mean, granted. it was historically cold, but still, like
Mhm.
it.
So
That's really what I give it to. It's a short turnaround, and they're traveling. Actually, as I'm talking through it now, I think that's really the L I want to give. And it was initially hard for me to put an L by the Bears logo.
mhm.
That was mentally a tough. That was a tough obstacle for me. But if
Right.
I'm really thinking through it, if I'm being realistic, that's a tough situation. Even though this is my pride, like that will hurt losing to the Bears, but they are a different team.
Right.
They have
I
better.
so I have this as a win. I know that it runs counter to, they're traveling, it's 4 days, but
It's Chicago.
it's still a rookie quarterback. And I think Mike McDonald's mind and his game plan is going to be money against quarterbacks that can't diagnose quickly, right? And it's
Yeah.
not to say that Caleb Williams can't, but he's still a rookie. Two, I think this is where we start to see as the weather gets worse, as we get along in the season, I think this is where we start to see the conservativeness of Mike McDonald come out. I
Right.
think in a game like this, they're going to try to run the ball. I think they're going to try to run the ball against the Bears, control the ball, control the game. That way, you're not leaning on Geno to win the game for you. We know Geno's not good in cold weather, right? We know that. So if you have a running game and you play good defense in a game like this, and their secondary is great. Tyreek Stevenson and Jalen Johnson, those are two very, very good corners, right? So again, for me, you run the ball. This is where you see the really conservative version of the Seahawks. Again, it's a win. Next year probably wouldn't be a win. This year, rookie quarterback, it's a win, in my opinion.
I'm afraid of what our running back situation looks like at that week. I'm just gonna be frank.
George Alani. That's the George Alani.
Yeah, that's literally what I'm thinking. Like I'm for real. I'm thinking like he makes a debut there.
Might
It's
be.
scary stuff. It's scary hours in my opinion. Especially
Might
coming off
be.
the short week. That scares me. Uh okay. Yeah, I can't get with you on that one. I think I still got to stick with my loss. Now to answer your question, Caleb Williams, I think he has been a little overhyped.
Mhm.
I think he has a season like Trevor Lawrence had in year two,
Mhm.
mid, but with promise, right?
Yes, I agree.
I think
I
that's
agree.
what I expect. To answer your question, finally, as we wrap up here, LA
Mhm.
on the road. Apparently, it doesn't actually have a date. It's like
Right.
January 4th or 5th. But I've got that as a L just because I have them splitting. You could
Mhm.
talk to either one, but I do think that, I could just see like playoff, unless playoff seeding matters. I don't know. I'm not so sure that if the Seahawks have a seed locked up, that Mike McDonald won't sit some guys. Pete Carroll would never,
Right.
right?
Right.
But McDonald's smarter than that, and I think there is some wisdom to doing that. So I can see them losing on that alone.
Yeah, to me, it's a loss as well. I think that could be very well be the case. Um, I also just think, it's I don't really have any other argument other than either team could be, the Rams could be in contention. They could be coming after the Seahawks. Seahawks could be resting dudes. They could be playing young players because they went, 5-11 so far, right? We don't know. To me, that's a loss. It's traveling. It is what it is. I have them as 9-8. I have them as 7-2 at home. Because I do think the crowd is going to matter more because of the defense and the focus on the defense. I have them as 2-6 on the road. Maybe I'm rewinding the clock 20 years by valuing home and road in that way, but that's how it played out for me. And I assume 9-8 gets them that last wild card sort of thing, which I would expect them to lose potentially. But this is progress, right? I think you have a great defense and a developing offensive identity. I expect them to add more offense after this upcoming season to try to have it match the defense at that point in time. But to me, it's a 9-8 team. It's going to be a fun team to watch. I do think they have the potential to go, like 11-6 if things fall right. But I would assume they're right around 500.
Yeah, I've got 11-6, but I will give that's my ceiling. I
Mm-hmm.
can more realistically see them dropping an extra game, especially in that 3 game stretch I talked about. I can see them losing 2 out of the 3, to be honest.
Right.
And so I'll just say, or one of the division games, something like that. So I'll say more likely 10 and
10-7.
Yeah, 10-7 versus 11-6. But on paper, 11-6. I'm optimistic. I think that this was a 12-win team last year on talent. Now, I know it's a new coaching situation, so I get that. I wouldn't be upset if they were 9-8. That wouldn't upset me because they have the talent. I expect more that the offense will improve throughout the season. And really, I think talent-wise, the offense is in a great shape, with the exception of the left guard spot. I think that defense still needs some pieces in terms of maybe some star talent in the back end, the safety end, the linebackers. I think you could use some stars there to maybe better match Mike McDonald. I'm not sure that, even though I think the defense will be good, I think there could be some upgrades there. I think they've got enough play, but I don't think Mike's anywhere near done with that defense after year one.
I agree.
All right, man. Either way, we're feeling good about the year, feeling good about the schedule.
It's gonna be fun. It's different. It's new. It's exciting. It's like buying a new car, and you don't know if that new car is gonna be better than the one you used to love, but it's still new and it's still exciting. So let's go do it.
Agreed. All right, Tino, tell people they can find you. We'll get us out of here.
All right. Twitter, personal account, TINOJR20. Ethos Mariners is the Mariners cast. We're doing it Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Mariners right now are losing 2-0 to Baltimore. I'll be on Monday talking about this weekend series. And then a bunch of fantasy baseball stuff, but baseball's in full swing. But starting to do my fantasy football prep right now, which is also a lot of fun. So sports always, you know how it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Be sure to give the show a follow at Ethos Seahawks. We will be picking back up next week with our For Better or For Worse series to go over the schedule. Absolutely have to do that. But we will be back with that series. A really interesting conversation. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, that's all the time we have for today. That's it. We're out. And as always,
Go Hawks.